Hey everyone, it's Angus here. Recently I made a video about how to use moving averages to find stocks that are in a nice steady uptrend over a period of time. And so what I wanted to do today is I wanted to show you a way that I do it using a slightly more advanced tool. One of the challenges with using moving averages is during a period of volatility, the moving averages, sort of do cross all over the place and, they get quite close together. And it doesn't really give you much information at this point here. You can see this stock's in a bit of an uptrend. I think I should turn on my little tool. I think it's this one here. So you can sort of see, the price sort of goes from down here somewhere nice and steadily, up to there. And then again, does the same thing over here. It sort of goes from, down here. See the tool goes from down here. And then, again, sort of is in a nice uptrend through there. So it doesn't sort of, give you much of a hint through that period there, just, because of how the moving averages are all clumped together. But you can see here that it's, definitely in an uptrend. And, the longer that trend continues, you can see that these, lines are, moving nicely apart. So, getting a little bit closer together with a pullback in the recent market. But, all in all, you can see that's in a, sort of fairly nice, steady uptrend. Even though it's slightly flat across the top here. What I wanted to do is I wanted to show you how I find what I call super performance stocks. So I want to find stocks that are in a nice steady uptrend left to right, but I want to find stocks that don't have too much volatility. And what I mean by that is, stocks that are sort of diving up and down and, all over the place. And you can't really get a good sense from this stock here, how much these swings are. So you can use a tool like this one here, and I can sort of take it from this bottom and go up to the top there. And so I can see that's roughly about a 10% swing. So that's not too bad. And then I can go down here and I can see from there to there, that's roughly a 12% swing. So, that's sort of one quick way you can do it using the existing tools that are built into the system. But, when you're starting to get into stocks that are, doing 100% type returns, then you want to try and find stocks that trade within a sort of fairly narrow range, not stocks that might be going up and down, 30, 40, 50%, in a sort of week period up and down and, shake you out of the trade. So what I'll do is I'll get rid of all this stuff and I'll, using my simple system down here that I showed you how to set up before, this is just the built-in stock screener. All I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. I'm going to say, show me stocks where their yearly performance is above 100%. And so that's from November last year, or roughly November, it's the 29th of October now, but roughly November last year to November this year. And so what I'm trying to do is find stocks that are up 100%, even including with this big sort of dip through here. And you can see this number here is the sort of important one to look at, this little red number in the box. You can see that saying it's up 33.5%. from where it starts on the screen to where it ends on the screen here. If I zoom out a bit, you can see the percentage changes. You can see it was up 50% roughly. From this point here to this point here, it was up roughly 60%. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to look for stocks where that number's, 100 or greater. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my 1 year view. And because we had like an unusual market event, which, really rocked things with COVID, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to look at the period from, let's say, March through to October, just in terms of my chart, but I'm still looking at the 100% performance, over the entire 12 months. So that 100% has taken my 10,000 US stocks down to 495. And so I'm going to turn these off just by hiding them. And I'm going to turn my SuperTrail on. And so what I was trying to say to you before is when I was showing you those parallel lines, you couldn't really see that this was an uptrend here. This was an uptrend here. Now it's much more obvious with the SuperTrail turned on. So I'm going to take it back to, let's say, the start of April, and I'll show you how it works. I've got it set to 20%, and you can change it to whatever value you like. I just use 20% because I think that'll capture quite a lot of the better sort of stocks in terms of volatility. This one I could have had down around 11%. If I had held that from here to here, with an 11% stop loss, a trailing sell, I would have, had a 37% return theoretically on my investment, from where it gave me a buy signal. So if it gave me a buy signal there, roughly from there to there, it's saying roughly 60%, you would have stayed in the trade with roughly an 11% stop loss running. So let's go and try and do this properly. So start of April, we've got April lined up on my chart just here, and through to the current date here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it back to 20%, because again I'm looking for these super performers that are going to be running greater than 100% per year. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to sort it by the stocks that have made the most percentage return over that 12-month period. And so you can see here, whether this is right or wrong, but it's saying that stock was up 20%, which would be hard to believe, but never know this crazy market. And so you can see here at 20% trail, you can see how many times it's bought and sold, 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 bought and sold. And so to me, that's way too volatile. So that's not a stock that I would look at. And so what I'll do is I'll go to the next one on the list. And I'm going to start to go through this fairly quickly. So you can see that one's a lot better, like it's a lot less volatile. You can see here it's saying it was up 200%, for that period. So if I look down here, it's saying it was up roughly 4,000% for the year, but it was up roughly 200% since April. So if I zoom out a bit and go back to November last year, so you can see this must have been a crazy little crappy penny stock, and so you can see that 4,300 roughly lines up with that 4,200 up there, just to make sure you understand what I'm seeing for both of these. So let's go back down to April. We're back in April again, so you can see 200%. And so that one, it's not too bad. Like you can see, it's sort of starting to fall away at the moment. It's still on a sell signal. You'd have to wait till that turned around in order to buy it. It's had a fair bit of a run on the negative side. So it's not one that I'd be overly interested in. So let's start flicking through them. So the next one, heading down, wrong way. Not enough volume or whatever's going on that one. Don't like look at that one. That one's pretty good. So that's Neo. So Neo's a Chinese car manufacturer. So I'm going to hit Alt W and add him to my shortlist. You can see that for the sake of a 20% trail, it's roughly an 835% return since that mid-April type point. And so if I was going to trade this, what I'd do is my next step is, once I've identified my list of stocks, what I want to try and do is work out, what percentage keeps me in the trade longer. And so, 23%, you can see, some of these buys and sells disappear through here. And, my thinking is that to have a 23% trail to get, around about an 835% return with 1, 2, 3 times you go in and out of that stock is not too bad. So if I wanted to go the other way and make it really tight, just to see what happens through this, last 1 month type period through here, we'll see what point we get stopped out there. Yep, so you can see at 17%, you can see all this volatility would have come in, all these buys and sells, which would have kicked you out of the trade. Around about 18% would have kept me from, roughly mid-September to, the end of October. But, a better sort of trail on that stock is around that, let's say 20, 21, 22 type percent mark, 23 in fact. So that's just how it works. So now that you've got a little bit of an understanding, back to 20%, and let's start going through them all. So RSTN, probably that one too volatile, don't like it. Yeah, we just looked at. Heading down the wrong way. Heading down the wrong way. Of course, if you're shorting, it'd be a good way to trade it. Not too bad, but see how it's got these sort of really light, candles. I always sort of look at that and think, well, maybe there's not enough volume going through it. Which is true, because it's saying, I think that's only saying there's only 20,000 average volume. So let's bump that up. Let's get rid of some of these little tiny ones. So let's go 100K minimum volume. Takes me down to 380. Let's go a million. So that's still 495 or 168 stocks which have an average volume of 1 million. So let's just see what happens. So we'll start at the top again. Trillium, heading the wrong way. I'd want to wait for him to turn around. And so he was up 310%. He's had a pullback here, which is, kind of reflective of the market. And if I wanted to, what I can do is I can click on the indicator. I can right click, go add alert on SuperTrail, and say when there's a SuperTrail buy signal, show a pop-up and send me an email, and I'll get a little message saying SuperTrail buy signal. So I'm not going to bookmark him, but I'll just say if it turns around, send me an email. So Neo is the next one. We already know that I bookmarked Neo. Bit sort of flat through there, not that interested. No, heading the wrong way. He's come down a long way, but if he recovered, could be interesting, but I'll leave him for now. See this one here, great looking stock, so that's Nautilus, so definitely going to add him. W. You can see, for the sake of a 20% trail, through this whole period here, he's kept in the trade, so he's definitely a stock that I like the look of. My bio. Oh, and just by the way, Nautilus over the last 12 months has delivered a 1,258% return. Over the last 3 months, 123% return. Over the last 1 month, a 30% return. So over the last week, he's had a dip. He might be recovering here. It looks like he might be coming back up, but you can see how he's kind of bounced off that 20% type line. Not saying that's the right line for this stock, but it's just something that's a little bit interesting. So he's one that I would definitely add to my list and have a look at. Wrong way. He's always been interesting stock, but definitely heading the wrong way at the moment. But again, probably what I'd do is I'd put an alert on him and say, add alert on SuperTrail. Send me an alert when there's a buy signal, because I do like that stock. It's just alternative fuel, basically. And I think that's a fairly bubbly sort of space at the moment. He's ranging a little bit, sort of traveling between this $3, let's call it $3.20 type mark and down to around the $2 mark. So, it could be an opportunity for him to, buy if he goes back up to that sort of previous level, but I'll skip him for now. I'm sort of really looking for the ones that are nice and smooth. Let's keep going. Parts is always interesting. 524% return for just that period since March. So I might add parts. I do like him as a stock. It's just car parts. Zoom's obviously a really good one. So you can see Zoom, barely any sort of movement, only a couple of buys and sells through that period. So I'll add Zoom. Five Renault's been doing particularly well lately, so I'll definitely add Fiverr. It's had a bit of a pullback, might be coming back up. So 7% last night, worth keeping an eye on. LVGO, I'll add him. Don't know anything about him, so I'll have to go and look him up. And the easiest way to do that, just to show you if this doesn't kill my recording, is all I do is you click on this little heading here, Livongo Health. Click on that. It should open up a second page, and I'm not sure if you're going to see this or not, but it basically opens up a new window with all the sort of technical analysis dials and things like that. But the most important thing that I read is just have a quick skim read through this. And so digital health platform, so diabetes, hypertension, to me that sounds good, with obesity in the world. Anything to do with that, sort of nice chart. Is a bit flat across the top, but we'll certainly keep an eye on him. So he's bookmarked. And interestingly too, just on this one here, he hasn't, this Livongo, back on him, yep, he hasn't really taken a dive. The whole market's been thumped really badly at the moment and everything's going down, and he hasn't. And the other thing I like about him is through earnings. So he's obviously had earnings yesterday. You can see here there's 130 more days for him to go before earnings, and he hasn't fallen through the floor. So, again, he'd be a stock that I would certainly, be interested in. If I wanted to work out what sort of trail I'd need to put on him, let's have a quick look. So something like that. Let's get rid of this one down here. So you can see, 25, 26%. So 26% trail might have netted you around a 620% return just from that period. You can see, and if I go back a bit, a few more buys and sells through there. But, we're not really interested in when he's flat. We sort of want to, have a look at him when he's running. So 26% trail might seem big, but, you can see it sort of prevented it getting faked out there, some of those little wick tails. And so 475% return, you'd be pretty happy to carry that. So let's go back to 20%. Okay. Overstock. So I know Overstock's been running fairly well throughout the year. He's had a long pullback. He's sort of back down to this sort of area here. So he's probably not a stock that I'd pick up right now. But if he broke above, somewhere above that sort of level there, so I'll go add alert. Let's make it $90. So if he gets above $90, then I might consider him for a buy. So, you can see I'll get an alert down here. So it's a fair way up, but you can see he's sort of been a bit range bound, hasn't been able to get above that, sort of, what is that, $86, $85, $86 mark. And he's had a couple of cracks at it, but hasn't, so I'll wait till he gets through that. And you can see that little dotted orange line is now my alert. GNPX, to all over the place. A bit too all over the place. Too many gaps. That's Tesla. I don't know why I've got a big heading. I think I was playing with something else on that. So Tesla, yeah, it looks interesting. 304% return since, sort of mid-March. Pretty good. So I'll add Tesla. WTRH. So the interesting thing about this is, you don't have to play the, daily pump and dumps in order to, beat the market if you can find these sort of 100% type returning stocks. Workhorse is obviously another car one, heading the wrong way at the moment. Kirkland's I've had a couple of trades at, and I keep seeming to manage to buy at the top and get bombed out on him, so I might give up on him for now. No, not interested in that one. Plug, I like the idea of Plug. Again, it's not crazy volatile, 300% type return over that period, but again, it's another alternative power one, and I kind of like that at the moment, so I'll have a look at him and Phase. Again, not too bad. I'll have a look at him. See, a great looking stock. So for the sake of that one, not many ins and outs, over that period of time. You can see here I've added a note to say 22%. So let's have a look at what 22% looks like. So 22% would have kept me in the trade since the 25th of March, and roughly for a 281% type return. Hindsight's always a wonderful thing, and you can see that if I'd only sort of found out about him somewhere through here. I'm just looking at this period here. So 15, 16. So you can see here he would have bombed out there at that period there. So I would have made that probably about a 14% trail, and I would have kept it all the way up through here. And so even at 14%, you can see that I still would have made quite good gains. And so all I do is once I buy the stock, I look back on that sort of past period, and next time I get stopped or kicked in and out of the trade, then I might readjust what the next percentages that I use. So anyway, so C I like the look of, so we'll add C. And he hasn't been thumped too badly, with the bit of a pullback over the last few days. And have a look at this one. Crazy. Too much. Beautiful chart, Peloton. It's obviously another exercise, well, it's not obvious, but it is another exercise bike one. So I'll add Peloton. I like the look of that. INO, VVPR, BE. And so all you're doing with this tool is you're trying to find stocks where, based on their past performance, and, there's that saying that says past performance is not an indicator of future performance, but, it's a pretty good indicator as far as I'm concerned. Like, I think if a stock's been going up long term, then unless something dramatic happens to that stock, or consumers no longer believe in the business, or, there's a greater market influence, that something bad has gone, with the rest of the market, we're in a depression or recession or something, then there's a good chance that the stock will continue to run. I added QDIL. I don't know what they do, but they look good. And that's the benefit of this system. He would have been, Jinx. I know I've bought Jinx before, and he's on a run down at the moment. But again, with him, I shall add an alert to say if he turns around, buy back in. So click on my indicator, go add a look on SuperTrail, and send me a buy signal when he turns back around. So that's pretty well the end of my time on the video. I hope that was useful. All I would then do is I'd go through each of these stocks individually, and I'd say for each one of these stocks, what sort of price point, what sort of percentage trail should I set? And I particularly like stocks that have had a pullback like this. The closer it is to that green line, the better value you're buying at in theory, if that green line becomes support and the stock bounces back off and starts to go back up. So as always, thank you very much for listening. Hope it was useful.